back to the main part of the book. So, toward these precious individuals who may find themselves enclosed within an organization's walls, or even in a non-denominational church, I don't say a thing that may be cross, nothing, but plenty I will convey about the religious systems that they may find themselves in by the hand of the Lord, which may be a bad situation for the moment. And it's very possible also that there may be a time for many of them to make their way away from these states to perhaps explore other areas of His grace. In God's good time, and only if He chooses to, shall He pull some of His children out from within a governmental structure that had been pitched by man. Or rather, He may wish to keep them in there as a guide to others who are a little less fortunate in quickly hearing the voice of the Good Shepherd as others have done. Perhaps the deciding point on how quickly a move is, if again there's even a move at all, depends on the spirit of the minister of the groups. But please know that I'm certainly not against pastorship. Of course not. However, I have absolutely no use for dictators. None. God ordained for there to be pastors. No question about it. But many have taken on the role of a dictator, which is the spirit of a historical Pharisee, and that's when we start having problems. But in all honesty, should there really be any division amongst God's true people? 1 Corinthians 1, 10 through 13, of which I promised to quote in an earlier explanatory note. I beseech you, brethren, by the name of our Lord Jesus Christ, that you all speak the same thing, not in doctrine, but in faith and in love. Keep that in mind. That there be no divisions among you, modern day terms, no denominations, but that you be perfectly joined together in the same mind and in the same judgment. For it has been declared unto me of you, my brethren, by them which are of the house of Chloe, that there are contentions among you. Now this I say, that every one of you who says, I'm of Paul, and I am of Apollos, I am of Cephas, or I am of Christ, I'm a Baptist, I'm a Oneness, I'm a Pentecostal, or any other Christian state. Is Christ divided? Was Paul crucified for you? Were you baptized in the name of Paul? Also, I'm certainly not against the gathering together of God's elect. We must not deny ourselves that necessary thing. But perhaps the best way to describe what I'm trying to express herein is a need for fellowship amongst all true Christians without the burden of walls, divisional names that is, to separate them. The actual building itself is not the problem. The church building, it's not the problem. People can gather there just fine, whether it be a large building or, as the early church members did, in their own homes. I'm not against home meetings. But what's really important is to not make a small fleshly kingdom built upon the desires of men, and to keep the meetings simple, void of church politics, if that is at all possible. Now, I'm going to quote the break of day here, from the life story of William Souders by O'Neill Carman. And before I do that, let me make mention of that book. The quote I'm fixing to quote is from the actual words of William Souders. He's noted as the founder and apostle of the American movement called School for the Prophets. Not School of the Prophets, as some have said. It's School for the Prophets. Souders' ministry began in about 1914, somewhere around there. That small, rare yellow pamphlet has an unknown date to it, though it's been suggested by a pastor of whom I am an acquaintance and who personally knew Brother O'Neill Carman that it was written and self-published in the 1970s. And let me say further that since after this book was published, I have actually retyped and edited that book and published it. So it's available on Amazon. Again, it's called The Break of Day. It's the life story of William Souders by O'Neill Carman. But the quote here from William Souders is very interesting. And you don't hear a lot of churches who come from the Souders movement. He's a considered to be a non-denominational minister, who most of the people that come from his movement has very solid established church buildings. But I want you to hear what he had to say. So here's Souders. Let me say this. God brought me through something when I first started in the ministry that has been a great help to me. I have used many of those things down through the years. I look back to the time when we were having meetings and had no music, not even a guitar. I never did forget those days. We never had a guitar. I never heard any sweeter singing in my life than it was then, and I watched it. Not only did we not have a guitar, but we didn't have a church house, and we didn't have seats to sit in. These are home meetings here. When we started the meetings, they were the most powerful, the richest, the grandest meetings that you ever saw. Would you believe that all of those meetings I have come through these 40 years, that I can look back and say they were the richest meetings that I was ever in? When they built a church, listen to this. When they built a church, I told the saints right there, that settles the sweet spirit here in our meetings. And they said, why, Brother Will? I said, here we are building a church house, a church building. We're taking it out of the humble home down there, and we're moving it up here on the hill. We're going to have a church, and the church meetings, we're going to have a pastor, and the pastor means that everything will be orderly. Listen to this. He's going to be proud, and we won't have it as common as we had it down there. When we started there on the hill, the church building, it was just a battle, day after day, battle after battle. Who was going to be the pastor? Who's going to do this? Who's going to do that? Say, so-and-so wanted to sit over there. So-and-so wanted to sit over here. I saw way back there, before that happened, we were gone. We lost the sweetest thing that Pentecost ever had in that day, and I was plenty active. I was investigating around, finding out what this fellow was doing and what that fellow and what they had and etc. I was attending their camp meetings. I wanted to go to a big gathering, but God rebuked me and wouldn't let me go. I was doing all I could in the way of getting out amongst the people, but we lost the sweetest thing that we ever had back there. I hope that quote shocks you if you're a follower of William Souders' movement. Now, after reading my book, or listening to it, because I'm going to read the whole thing online, I truly hope to reveal that I'm not trying to single out any particular person, no particular church group. I don't have any single denomination in mind. This is generalized. But we must realize that there are indeed some dictators amongst us, that there are systems that have been pitched by the spirit of man, and that these crude ministers or systems must not detour the free thoughts that God has allowed us to have in reviewing the sacred text of the Bible. All right, now that's it for chapter 1. I hope this whets your appetite for what's going to come hereafter. A lot of what I'm saying may be considered very controversial, but please listen to what I have to say without judging. I mean, listen to this book before predetermining what I'm going to be saying later on. I'm trying to soften the blow as much as I can, but I can't ignore what I feel like God has shown me in this. So at least give me a chance to explain. Hopefully you made it through this first chapter. Listen to every video that because I break these videos up into about 15-minute segments, and that you'll be willing to go listen to chapter 2. So hopefully I'll see you then. Hope you enjoyed.